Hi, as you know, I am Kaylin, and today we're going to be explaining bulk tasks. So there's various things that you can do in bulk. So we're going to move over to the user module, and on the top you'll see the menu for bulk, and in here you'll see a list of items that you can perform in bulk. So if you go to employees, you can edit any employee's information in bulk as well. So let's say, for argument's sake, you've got employees that you want to set their, if you've got access control, you want to set their access rights, or you want to set their shifts to a different shift and charge rates, etc. You can do these in bulk. So there's a whole list of different things that you can do. Let's say, for argument's sake, we want to set everybody's hire date, and we want to set this back to the 1st of January this year. So you would select that. You would then choose your employees that you want to do this for. Now you can either do all employees or then per branch, or if you've got, let's say you've got 5-10 employees that you want to set, you can go and do a custom selection and only select then those employees that you want to set the hire date for. So I've selected my custom selection, I've selected the field that I want to set, and then to what it should be set. You can also then, let's say for argument's sake, you want to set the hire date to the 1st, but only for those employees that don't have any hire date filled in yet. You can tick this and it'll only add it for those employees that haven't been entered yet. Once you have selected all that information, you can just click on Start and it'll update that information for you then. So as I said, there are multiple actions and things that you can change in the Edit Employee screen, so you can just come and take a look here and go through any of those that information that you want to set there, or time zones, etc. So that's editing the employees in bulk. The next one that you've got is classify employees. This is a very nice screen when you need to classify your employees, especially when you've just set up a new classification, or if you're starting the system and you need to add everybody into the certain classification. It'll list all your different types of classifications in this first column here. Let's say you've got then your branch. The second one will display all the different types of branches that you've got with their codes. You can then go and select which branch you want this employee to be classified in. So let's say we want this employee to be in the Johannesburg branch. You would select your employee's name, and then you would put them over to the right hand side, which will now then classify that employee in the Johannesburg branch. The same with, let's say we want to put the next employee, want to put them in Cape Town, you would throw them over to that side there then. The same with all the other classifications, they work exactly the same. Now in this column here in the middle, it'll be all the employees that haven't been classified according to that classification. So if the employees are listed here, they still need to be put in either in the department or whatever classification you have selected. So it's a quick way that you can run through all your classifications and make sure that everybody is in their relevant department or branch, etc. So that's your bulk classification screen. Then you've got your last one under employees, which is removing an employees. So you can then either terminate the employee or you can completely remove them from the system. Please remember that when you remove them from the system, they will be gone forever. So if you have selected somebody by mistake incorrectly, obviously that employee and all their clockings and details, everything will be gone, unless you've got a backup there. So terminate will obviously just terminate them, and you'll have a termination date, or else you can also specify whether this employee, if this employee hasn't clocked for, let's say, a month, you can then terminate that employee. Please also note that this function will take quite a long time depending on the amount of data that you've got, and obviously the amount of employees that you've selected. It obviously goes back all the way to the beginning of when this employee started, and would obviously then go and either remove or then terminate all that information that is relevant to that employee. So that's removing your employees in bulk or terminating them. The next menu that we've got is clockings. So you can also obviously go and add clockings in bulk, or you can remove clockings in bulk, or you can capture clockings. So let's just take a skip to the add clockings first. It'll be the same as your manual clockings that you would add, except now you're going to go and select your employees that you want, either for everybody or then a certain branch once again, or a custom selection that you can do for certain employees. Even if you've just got 10 employees that you need to select, you can select the date that you want to go and add that clocking for. And then also you would select the time that you want to go and add that for. So you would put that in there, whether this clocking is a pay clocking or a job clocking, and then also the direction, whether it's in or out. Now what you can also do is, let's say for some reason the employees were clocking this morning and about 10 of them clocked in, and then something happened and the power went down and the clock's not working, etc., etc. You obviously don't want to go and add another in-clocking for all the employees again, because that's going to result in duplicate clockings for those that have clocked this morning. So what you can do is you can add an in-clocking for the employees which are out, because obviously yesterday would have been the last clocking that they have, which would have been a out clocking. So this will then only go and add clockings for employees that have not clocked in this morning yet. Or you can obviously then, if you're adding out clocking, you can select that they need to be in. Or if you aren't too worried, you just want to go and add for everybody, you can select either. You can also put a comment in here why you would be adding this clocking. And obviously if this is a job clocking, it would enable then all your classifications for that. But we're going to leave this on pay clocking, select it for that day, and we click on add, and it's added that. The same thing with the remove clockings. You can obviously go and remove certain clockings then. And you can specify between which time and which time you'd like to remove these clockings. So you can go and select your employees, or select one guy. Once again, you can select your dates between which date and which date it needs to remove these clockings. And let's say you want to remove all clockings for a certain day. You can, let's say, it is clockings between, let's say, 12 o'clock. You want to remove, and 2 o'clock. You want to go and remove all clockings there. You can also specify whether it's from a specific clock, if you want to select that, if you've got multiple clocks, and what types of clockings does it need to delete. Is it ones that's been collected by the system? Is it bulk clockings that have been added? Let's say, for argument's sake, you added bulk clockings for the wrong day by accident. You can go and remove those clockings again and just then select the bulk option. Obviously, whether you've got clockings through the web interface or if it's access control, you can select which kind of clockings it needs to delete. You can also specify then that you would like to delete these clockings but still keep them as a record there. So then what it will do is, as per normal, when you delete a clocking, it will put a red X next to that clocking. Ticking this thing will do pretty much the same with those bulk clockings that you're removing. Once you've selected all that information, you can just click on remove, and it will remove all those clockings between 12 and 2 on the 26th. And then you've got your third one in the clockings menu, which is capture clockings. So let's say this is a slightly quicker way of adding multiple clockings. Instead of going in one for one and adding a clocking, for 8 o'clock, and then you go back and add another one for 5 o'clock, you can go and select a certain employee. Let's say I want to select this employee, and I want to go and add clockings from Monday. I can go and specify the time that I want to add this clocking for, whether it's an in or out clocking, if I want to comment in, and I can click on save, and it'll add that clocking. I can now go and add a 5 o'clock clocking, or whatever time out clocking you want as well. I can go and add that as well, and I can go back to the 24th, and I can carry on each day. So you can quickly add multiple clockings, capture multiple clockings for one employee at a time in the screen. It's a little bit easier than going in and out and save and all that stuff. Okay, so you can then close that screen, and those clockings will then be added. And then obviously once you've added those clockings, it is advisable that you would then reprocess those hours in order for it to take all those changes into effect. Okay, so we'll get to that bulk recalculate bulk process, which is this last one that we'll do there. So the next bulk task that we can do is daily hours. So you can either go and add or remove daily hours. This also works pretty much the same as in your normal daily hours window, where you would add manual hours. You would select your employees, select the date. Obviously, once again, only difference here is that you can select everybody or just do a custom selection. You would choose then your rate of pay, and then whether it's pay hours or job hours again, whether it needs to add, subtract, or override those hours. So if you want to go and add an extra, let's say 2 hours for all employees of overtime for today, and you can also go and specify whether it's leave hours, company shut, or anything funny like that, and put in your comments, and you can click on add, and that will add then a manual entry for the employees that have been selected for that day then. It works the same basically to remove those daily hours as well. you can go and specify then your employees and specify the daily hours that it needs to remove, between which dates and which dates. Obviously, if there is still some clockings there, and you just recalculate that information, the daily hours will then be there again. Okay, so that's removing your daily hours. You've then got your payroll hours, which is basically the same as that daily hours, except now you're obviously adding, your hours for your pay period. Important here to remember, besides it working pretty much the same there, the important thing to remember here is that when you select the date, you need to make sure that you select the date that your payroll ends. So let's say you're running from a Monday through to a Sunday, you would need to select the Sunday date as your pay date then to add those hours. Generally what you can do just to make 100% sure, if you would have to go to one of your employees that you want to edit, or if it's all employees, you go to payroll hours, you can go back and just browse which dates. Let's just see, when's our payroll period. The last one was the 1606 that I've got here, so I would go and add hours for the 16th of the 6th then. So please ensure that that date is your payroll end date. Okay, so that's adding then the bulk payroll hours. Same thing with the remove bulk payroll hours. Works exactly the same as the daily hours screen one. Okay, so you've got then your leave, which you can do in bulk. You can, let's say you've got a company shut and you need to go and add that leave. You can select your employees, specify your dates from when to when you need to add this, and what type of leave you would need to go and enter. And how many days obviously that needs to take off. If it is annual leave, let's say you're adding, and then the reason for you adding that leave, you can enter that as well then. Once you've selected all this information, you click on the add leave. It will enter then all those leave entries for all those employees, or then your custom group that you've got. You've then also got the remove employee leave. So once again, the same as you would have added that, you can go and remove the leave and which type specifically you want to remove that. So if you've added that incorrectly by accident, you can select that and remove. And then you've got your last one, which you can assign leave scales. Now, depending on your leave setup, whether you're actually using leave scales or not, leave scales is basically when the employees accrue leave, they earn 1.25 annual leave days per month, etc., etc. You can go and remove those scales. You can go and assign those scales to these employees. Okay, so let's say you want to go and have your paid leave. You want to assign it to that guy, or you can select everybody if you want to give that leave scale to everybody. And I want to assign this annual leave 15 days scale, and I want to assign it from, let's say we want to assign it from the 1st of January. He gets then this leave scale, and we can click on add, and it'll add that leave scale to him. Okay, and so you can move on to all the other types of leaves and assign the leave scale that is appropriate to that leave type there. And like I said, that is dependent on whether you use leave scales or not. Okay, so moving on to the next one, which is shift rostering. So this is basically when you would then allocate you've got a certain little shift pattern that these employees work, the day shift 8 till 5, and the next day he'll work 9 till 3 for argument's sake. You can go and roster this in bulk as well, and go and add, once again, select either everybody or a custom selection, and you can select your date that you want to go and add this to, and change them to which shift. So you would assign everybody, for argument's sake, on the 26th, everybody will be on the 8 till 4 shift. Okay, and you can obviously override existing rosters. So if you have rostered them for some reason on the shift already, on another shift, and you want to override all that information, you can tick that and add that. So once you've added that in bulk, then you would see then under your shift rostering, your daily rostering, you would obviously then go and view that shift that has been assigned there in bulk. Okay. So then you've also then got the remove daily shift rostering, which you can obviously go and remove that which you've added or whatever, and you can also swap daily shift rostering. So let's say you've got everybody was on a 8 till 4 shift, and you want to now go and swap everybody that's on that 8 till 4 shift. You want to now put them on, let's just see, let's say everybody that's on the 8 till 3 shift, you want to go and put them on the 8 till 5 shift for argument's sake. So everybody that is on that date, on that shift, will be swapped now to this new shift, and it'll change that daily rostering there. Okay, and then you've also then under that you've got your payroll shift rostering, and you once again swap your payroll shift rostering and remove that. So you can do it's exactly the same as that, except now you're obviously doing it on a payroll basis. So that would then, you know, let's say you've got a office shift and a factory shift. You can, you know, factory 1 and factory 2, you can swap the employees between those shifts then on a payroll basis. You can do that as well. Okay, so you would assign the employees, for argument's sake, on one of these shifts. Let's say they're going to be on a night shift for the next week or so. You can say you can either leave that blank, which means that they will indefinitely be on that shift, or let's say you know that they're going to be working night shift from Thursday up until the end of the month. You can select that and you can set that shift there. It'll then obviously, once it's done with the 30th, it'll go back to his previous shift that he's been on there. Okay, so otherwise you can swap that, works the same as the daily, and you can remove payroll rostering as well, which will be the same as removing your daily one there. You've then got your overtime authorization, which you can also then go and add in bulk. You can either do it via daily again if you've got daily authorization set up, or if you've got payroll hours authorization set up, you can go and do that. So obviously on a daily basis you would go and authorize, let's say, you want to give each employee 1 hour. Oops, one too many. I think they'd be happy if they get 100 hours. You would select your employees, select your dates that you want to authorize those hours, you know, between which dates, how many hours you want to authorize, and once again, if you want to put a reference in, you can do that, and you can click on add. So this would then be the bulk function of you obviously going to the daily hours screen, and at the bottom you'll see your overtime authorization there. You'll obviously just be doing it for everybody, or once again if you do a custom selection, you would be able to you know, select 5, 10, however many people that would apply to. Okay, you can also go and remove then your bulk authorizations in either daily or payrolls. Once again, selecting your dates between when do you want to remove this daily overtime authorization for, selecting your employees, and clicking on remove. You can then also go and add the expected hours of the employee. Now, important to remember here that your expected hours is only on payroll basis. So when you're adding this, you would select your payroll date, again, when that would end, and this employee would need to work 40 hours for argument's sake in that pay period. He's expected to work 40 hours. If you've got this expected hours configured on your system, if this employee is under his expected hours, let's say he was supposed to work 40 hours, he only worked 36 hours, then it will show that in red that he is under, and you can immediately see this employee did not work his full amount of hours. This is also based on, if we go to our, let's just look at our payroll hours, go, let me just select an employee that has got some hours there, and this is slightly far back, so I'm going to go to the 16th. We had something there. This would be based on his total hours. So if this employee has only worked a total of 6 hours, then he would obviously be way under there. But what it will do is whatever columns affect your total column. So let's say we authorize this. Let's go and authorize that quickly. Let's go there. Add. Oops. This is for the 16th. Let's just see, what have I got here? Oh, I'm on payroll authorization. That's not going to help me much. Let's go to daily hours. 16th is a public holiday. Let's go, yeah, we've got our hours. Let's go and authorize that. overtime. Okay, obviously he's worked slightly short, so it's taken those hours into his normal time, but we'll see that our total is obviously on 8 hours now, and then our payroll hours would obviously also be 8 hours, and the expected total will then calculate based on that. So it'll always take then all the columns that's got the little plus signs, which affect your total column. It'll take all those hours, and it'll then compare that to the expected amount that he should be working. So you can go and add that for all your employees for a certain date again and please make sure that that is the payroll end date that you have selected there. The second last thing that we've got here in our bulk is adding training in bulk. So you can either add that, you can change training, or you can go and remove any training. So in your training screen, you can once again go and select your employees, select the date that that training has been for. Let's say you've got it that it expires a certain date, and if you've got certain course codes that you have actually set up here that these employees have taken and what the result is and how long is this course, you can fill in all this information, and if there is a certificate or some document you want to link, you can put that in and also fill in any extra comments that you've got there, and then you can click that and that'll add all those employees, it'll add their training information according to what you filled in on that employee. Okay, so then you can obviously go and change that if you need to change for some reason and go and remove that. The last thing under the bulk functions is your bulk process. This is always recommended that you do this before your pay period, for your payroll run, in order for it to take any changes that you have perhaps done in your pay period to just recalculate that and make sure that it has made all the necessary changes that's needed in order for those hours to be correct to go to payroll. So like I said, I suggest that you would do this and then you go and check that all your payroll hours are correct, you're happy with that, before actually exporting that to your payroll system. So you would then either select one employee, or obviously if you're doing it on your pay before your pay period, you would then select all non-terminated employees. You would select your pay period that you're going to be processing this for. So let's say we're running it from the Monday to the Sunday. We're going to be processing that. And then you want to always select both, because if you're going to select process daily, all that's going to do is going to process your daily hours. It's not going to include any of your payroll hours, which is what you're going to export to your payroll anyway. You obviously, if you're just going to do payroll, it's not going to take any calculations in your daily hours, recalculate any of that. So you would like to always select both then, just to ensure that all information has been reprocessed. And you can click on schedule, and let's just see, I've selected all non-terminated. Let's say schedule. It'll run through there, and at the back you'll see then depending on how many employees you've got and how many clockings, how long your pay period is, it'll show you how many items there are left to process. So as it's busy processing that information, running through, making sure that everything is correct, it'll obviously count that down. Once that is back to 0, you can then obviously carry on with your payroll and do the export and all that check all those things that's needed, then print reports, etc., etc. So that's pretty much your bulk tasks that we went through there, just explaining all of them, what you can do in bulk. Always nice to know that in case it's a little bit bad if you need to go and add clockings and hours for 20, 30 people, if for argument's sake needs be, and you've got to go in one for one. It takes pretty long. So I hope you've learned something today and that you will join me again next time. Goodbye.